Good morning, Yorkshire Classic Cars Ltd fans, and it is just barely morning. 11:59 at the start of this video. Welcome to what might be one of the sunniest warm days in Retford we've had for a long time. You'll notice I'm in my shorts. Try to hold back. I'm hoping I don't get demonetised for being too blooming good looking. Right, quick weekly workshop update. I'm between coats of paint. Want the lights on so you can see what I'm doing. Actually did this the other day, but it wasn't very good because I was a bit low blood sugar, so I was just whittling on about any old rubbish. Basically, what's going on this week in the workshop, as you can see, the SD1 is back down on the floor, ready to be turned around. The Stag is waiting to be turned around too, to start on the other side. That'll be next week. I've got an E28 Bmw 520 in. It's had some repair work done elsewhere, some welding on the sills and stuff like that, and the floors. It wasn't running very well when it came in, and it had just a few minor issues. The throttle body was wrong on it, and the airflow meter had been fiddled with. This is what we used to do back in the day, take the lids off and try and adjust them to make them go faster. This is the M20 B20 engine, so the 2 litre 6 cylinder. Sound lovely, but BMW seriously underpowered them. They don't have a lot of go, so obviously everybody tried to get a little bit more go here and there. Very rarely happened. Usually you just wreck the airflow meter. This one's wrecked. Might have been always wrecked. Who knows? But the fact is, the lady who owns the car, she ordered a new airflow meter from eBay. I sent her the part number. I sent her the listing number. She ordered it. And he said, oh, the lid's fallen off. She said, is that okay? I said, no, don't bother with it, because no doubt somebody's done what they've done to this one and tried to fiddle with it. I said, it might work, it might not, but if we fit it and then it still isn't working, it might put us off something else being wrong, and so on and so forth. Please try to ignore the pipe work. This is just temporary. Because obviously the pipe work was wrong because the throttle body was slightly different. They're all slightly different on BMWs. I had a 325 and a 320 and all sorts, and the early ones are different to the later ones. This is actually L-Jetronic. It's not a Motronic engine. So if you know anything about these, the later ones were Motronic. Excuse me, just had a bacon sandwich. Early ones are K-Jet, middle ones were L-Jet, and the later ones were Motronic. So this doesn't actually have an electric idle airspeed control valve. It has all this pipe work and solenoids and diaphragms there. This is, you can tell straight away because it's got a distributor. Later ones had the dizzy on the end of the camshaft there, and it was just a spark distribution unit rather than a vacuum advanced distributor. It was all done electronically on those. Anywho, so she ordered another airflow meter. I gave her another part number because the guy only had that one. Fair enough. Made sure we found the right part number. They sent it to her. She brought it to me. And when I checked the numbers on it, they were wrong. So they've sent the wrong part. Now, is this an eBay seller's thing? I don't know. Is it just an accident? Probably. Somebody's probably just picked up the wrong one and popped it in the packaging. So we're now waiting for the correct airflow meter yet again. Once that's on, hopefully that's all it needs. So I just need to put some proper, this is fuel hose, so it's not, it's oil control hose, so it's not vacuum hose like you need for your brakes. This is the original BMW vacuum hose. You can probably see it over there. But we need to put proper vacuum hose on here. But I was just testing it with that. I'm not driving it around. I'm just trying to pipe up and see what works and what doesn't. So yeah, as soon as that comes, that's done. Hopefully that'll be middle of next week. The Mini, beautiful little Mini here. This is an absolute star of a car. Very, very tidy condition. Show you inside. It's lovely. Little note on the steering wheel, because the wheels have loads of offset and they catch on the front arches ever so slightly. You'll notice it's had a lovely 11 stud engine put in. Okay, so like the Cooper S engines with the extra head stud at each end. This one is, I think it's 1340, it might be 1310. It's been overboard. We don't really know the spec of the engine, and the owner wanted twin SUs on it. Carburetors. It had a single 1.5 inch, as in a standard 998 carb, and he said it runs very poorly. I said, well, really, you know, twin SUs look the daddy, so when you open the bonnet, that's what everybody expects to see, but they don't actually work very well. A single HIF 44 is the way forward. So I said, it's up to you. It's your car. Obviously, I can only tune it enough to get it set up, and then you'll need a rolling road to tune it to the spec of the engine, because we don't know what it is anyway. And even if we did, picking a needle is very, very difficult. It's beyond my realm of logistics. So they supplied me with a brand new HIF 44, but unfortunately some parts were missing off it or different to this car. So the throttle mechanism was different and the choke mechanism. So what I've done is, and I'm between coats of paint on this gloriously sunny day, just had a Barbie, as you can see. What I've done is I've made that's the choke mechanism there with the choke cam, the fast idle cam. This is the throttle mechanism here. I've literally just put a coat of lacquer on. Don't want it too shiny. Just want it to look sort of zinc passivated sort of colour. This is part of a Rover V8, part of a Mini, and part of something else. I don't even know where that came from. But the fact is, it now works. So I've taken the choke mechanism, which was also missing, and I've drilled and threaded the carburetor and stuff. And she's all ready to rock and roll. So that's good news. The burgundy Caddy. One Caddy out, one Caddy in. Thinking of changing my name, maybe to Caddy Shack. Sounds a cool name. Never heard anything called that. As you can see, the wheels are missing. Oh, there you go. Wheels are missing off each end. I'm waiting for the tyres to be fitted. Basically, the customer supplied me with some white walls to get fitted on. It's not a 5-minute job. It is super low. The back axle is actually hanging down. I don't know if you can see under there, but it's hanging down off the shocks. To allow the wheels to wiggle out of there. It's a 4 9-inch axle on a 4-link. It's got an alley prop. I can't remember which gearbox it is. I think it's 700 R4 with a small block Chevy on Holly fuel injection. It's a lovely car. It really is beautiful. But it's a pain getting the wheels off the back. The fronts are easy. the back's absolute nightmare. It took me about a day to get that down there and wingle and wangle them off. So yeah, not pretty. But it's on its way. The tyres have been wrapped to protect them because of the white walls, and basically it's made the sidewalls pinch in like that, so they're having a bit of difficulty getting them fitted on. That's what the young man is telling me. Whether he's just been that busy, he's forgotten about them, I don't know, but I'm going to go just rattle his cage a little bit next week, and hopefully it'll be all done. You can see the Rover V8 here for the yellow stag. That is now all stripped. That was supposed to go in yesterday to the machine shop to be having a look at. Unfortunately, it was super duper. Gosh, never noticed that. It was super duper busy. So he asked me if I'd bob it through on Monday. So that's going through Monday morning. I've said many times before, I don't think it'll need much. It might just be a hone. It depends when he measures it. He'll bore gauge it and everything. There is a shadow of surface rust in the bars, but I think it's below the bottom ring land, so I think we should be all right with that anyway. And I think it will come out with a hone either way, so it's not. I certainly aren't worrying about it. The bearings are very, very good. You can see some of the main bearings there. They're like brand new. The crankshaft is over here behind the mini air filter, and you should be able to see on that. It really is clean. There's some very light grooving on there. When I say light grooving, I mean you can't feel it. You certainly can't click your nail in it. So it's like a mark on the metal rather than a groove or a wear pattern. The rods and pistons came out lovely, all marked up. The rings even look good, to be fair, but there's no blow by on them at all. Excuse me. You can see there's a bearing in there. I always try to take him a bearing, at least one of them, so you can check the oversize. It just saves a lot of time and effort. But you can see they're not marked at all. It's usually the top one that takes on a combustion engine, and you probably know this if you're watching my video. But as the piston works in that orientation, as the combustion cycle takes forth, it pushes down, which is what damages the top of the big end bearing here predominantly, because it's forcing the oil out across. When you free rev your engine, so when you sat at the traffic lights going like that, excuse the sound effect, that whips the crank round and damages the small end, which is why you really shouldn't do it, and why modern cars have a rev limiter on them to try and stop you doing that. And I will say that my Capri has now got a rev limiter on to stop you free revving it as well, because it lashes the main cap, and as you can see, the main cap isn't particularly thick. That's not because it's a cheap, bad or shonky rod. That is just how engines are, really. It's a bit dodgy doing that sort of thing predominantly. That's why it ruins your engines. So yeah, that's that in a nutshell is where we're up to at the moment. There was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, the bell housing has come. Sorry, forgot about that. The bell housing has come for the Borg 65. That's Rover V8 bell housing, obviously, to fit to the Rover V8, but it will also fit to the customer's Borg 65. I believe the torque converter is the same. I believe the flex plate is the same as well, but I could be wrong on that one, so I've got to check. If not, I'll have to buy my flex plate. But yes, that's where we're up to at the moment. Really super busy at the moment. Things don't look like they've changed a huge amount, but they really have. I may or may not have done it yet, but I've done a video for my Dino Day on my Capri. So if you're any interest in the Capri, take a look at that video, either when it comes out or if it has come out. Excuse me. The Dino Day went incredibly well. I was down at RDT Tuning in Harworth, which is in Doncaster, basically. It's just on the edge, this edge of Doncaster near Bawtry. And Will, who owns RDT, mapped my car, and the guy is a legend. The stuff he knows is incredible. It's the sort of thing you get with a lot of experience. And he was explaining it to me, and I was going, and I'm like, oh my days, I'll never remember any of this. But he did a great job of it. It's lively. Yes, I mean, it could get more, and it will get more in the future. In fact, I will show you actually before I sign off. A few days ago, I managed to find myself another 4.6 engine. So there is a Rover V8 stashed under there with my limitless supply of useless 350Z looms. It's an unknown engine, really. The guy who had it had got it from somebody closing the garage down. He said he tended not to keep stuff. It was a friend of his. He said he tends not to keep stuff if it's scrap. So he said, I can only assume it'd be in okay condition. Now, I've had a quick look at it, and there's a lot of bits missing. And it looks like one of the exhaust valve guides is a lot lower than it should be, like it's slipped. I ain't worried about that at all. The only things I need out of that are the block and the crank, and that's it. What I'm thinking is, well, what I've seen that people can do is they machine the big ends down to a Chevy spec, because they're actually bigger than a Chevy big end, believe it or not. And then use a small block Chevy conrod and forged piston. And I can't remember the sizes and specs, but I have had a quick shufty on the old interwebs, and then I can make it a nice forged motor. And then I've got to decide on a cam spec. I don't know whether to go for high revving and move all the revs up. But I would like it to be able to be revved to, well over 6,000 if I could. I'm running up to 52 at the minute, but yeah, so that's basically a donor block and crank. So assuming the crank is okay and the block is okay, there's no cracks and the liners haven't slipped or anything silly like that, that's all that is for. I'm going to push that an awful lot harder than the one that's in the car at the moment. And that one will be my sort of death of glory. But yeah, I mean, most of it is there. Some of it is missing. It's pretty shonky and dishevelled, but that doesn't matter. As I say, as long as the crank of the bars are okay, we can work with it. So there we go. No point in pulling it down because I aren't ready for it yet. So yeah, there we go. Really lovely and busy. Please like the video if you've liked it. Please like the video if you haven't liked it. Please consider subscribing. Do a lot of this stuff. I won't always be showing you my legs, but there is a possibility. So, you know, try to stay calm. All right, keep driving. Enjoy your cars this summer. Bye.